Welcome back to one of my episodes of Let's Play SimCity 4, my second season of which. Took a while to figure out what I wanted to do this episode, so it took a while to go ahead and get it out. I thought about going ahead and starting to put everything up as skyscrapers, but as you can see by my fast forwarding here, I decided to not in fact do that. Kind of have this a little bit as a tutorial as well as, just me playing the game. And as such, I kind of felt bad about doing that. Because one thing that you can see me doing here is I'm expanding, and I'm still expanding with medium residential. And that's typically something that you really do before you start building up and getting a lot of skyscrapers. Now, I know I did that. I kind of breached that whole thing. And I did put some skyscrapers in my city, but typically you don't want to go high density immediately. Typically, the rule of thumb is building out before you build up. And that's what I'm doing in this episode. I'm going to go ahead and expand, make sure that my roads, my civics, all that good stuff are, up and running and nice and stable and not being horribly overloaded. Making sure that my the style that I'm building right now is actually going to work before I switch over to high density. So that's what I'm doing here. I'm going ahead and I'm getting a nice little groundwork of what I want. Going ahead and expanding off of what I've already built on. And if this holds, then I can go back and say, alright, well if that worked, then I can slowly start taking these guys up to high density and see if any problems arise. Now, great thing about doing it that way is if you went and didn't do it as you see it here, if I just took that area where I first built and concentrated only on that and got all of that up to high density, let's say even immediately, well, if that's a large part of your population. If it doesn't work and they're pissed off, then your entire city is pissed off. They might leave, they might, they can't in this city because I'm preventing them from moving in by taxes, but they might go all low wealth. Medium and high might not be interested, and no amount of bribing will kind of take care of that. If they don't have sufficient, police coverage, fire coverage, all that good stuff, then yeah, good to know that there's gaps in your building beforehand before you decide to go ahead and, make a city of a few million people. So that's what I'm doing here. Going ahead and I'm putting down nice groundwork for what I hope will be a nice large city. And as you can see, I'm also going ahead and I'm giving them nice stuff, things like a country club. Finally went ahead and put that in. Parks, making sure everything's nice and desirable. People will want to build. That's another thing that really, really sucks. If I tried to build high density, for example, and they didn't build, I might not know why they weren't building, but if I can get them all to build in medium density, then I at least have taxes. I'm getting an income, so I can figure out, what else they might need higher up. And I'd be able to afford it that way. And not just kind of putting down and hoping. So yeah, that's what I'm doing this episode. Just gonna go ahead and build out, expand my area. Now you'll also probably picked up on the fact that I'm not going to go ahead and just build up in all in one direction throughout my entire city. I kind of turned them to face the people that I originally built. And with that knowledge, you can pretty much see one of the other little minor secrets that I'd gone ahead and hadn't told you yet. I do intend to kind of box everyone facing my river. I mean, you saw it in the beginning how I had my buildings facing that side. Over here on the left, doing the exact same thing. Gonna have them go ahead and face my river. That way, hopefully you have a lot of, neat little angles where these buildings are gonna come up so you can see them from multiple sides and look all cool. And that's my plan. Add some diversity. Even if you do have a bunch of buildings looking all the same, they won't look completely all the same because you'll be looking at them from different angles. So, yeah, there's that too. If you're not playing like I am and going insane and downloading like 5 billion different buildings for your city, can just go ahead and make sure that you got a bunch of buildings pointed in different ways. That way, although they are the same, they might not look that way. So that's what I'm doing there. And expanding my commercial. One thing that I run into a problem with, though, you'll notice when I unpause, is that I don't really have much of a demand there. I mean, you can see my RCI. It's all negative. Well, it's granted it's going to be mostly negative, primarily because I'm forcing everyone outside of my city. The only people I'm allowing are high wealth residential for the moment. Medium wealth will come in later to kind of fill in the gaps. And commercial and no industrial to speak of at all. So that's a lot of negative demand, forcing the overall demand on my RCI down. But if I ever go into it, you'll see that that's kind of lacking. So I have to go back to one of my surrounding cities soon. Build them up so I can get more demand here. Of course, with any expansion, you'll notice from my, my income, I am starting to lose money, but don't worry so much about that. You can see I've only got about 200 or 271k. I'm losing money, obviously. But I'm gonna be making more than I'm losing right now as soon as I unpause. At least that's the idea. That's the hope. And I usually don't add on an area like this unless I have close to 300,000. That way, even if I calculated wrong or I put too much stuff down, letting it run out to build up and thus, lose me money isn't going to make me go in the red, because I have enough of a surplus that I can drain that effectively for a little while. So be careful of that as well. A lot of people start out and they use up all of their money just putting down this city that they have in mind, and they realize they didn't really leave them enough money to build into it. I mean, you're going to be losing money for a while until everything nicely settles out. So definitely got to keep that in mind as well. If you don't have a couple 100k to spare, and you find yourself building large, then you might just wind up in the red. No more SimCity for you. They will kick you out of office eventually. You will lose the game. Impossible to win the game, but you will lose the game. Now, one thing I kind of worry about is I don't really have enough road connections to this area. I don't think it popped up yet in any of my episodes, but I think a couple of my roads are overwhelmed. Reason for that is rich people absolutely love taking their cars everywhere. So one thing I'm thinking about doing that in a future episode is actually getting rid of that car connection, of that road connection, and see if I can force them all to use the subways. I don't know if it's gonna work, but that's one of my plans. I hope to do. But we'll see how that works. Maybe it will, maybe it won't. Of course, always remember to make your area nice and desirable. That way, when you unpause it, people actually move in. Have to deal with a few things, power, water, etc. Kind of continues to add to your expenses. But if you expanded and you gave them everything, then they should move on in, which is what I saw. Again, moving in nicely. Areas that they don't want to move in, just keep making it desirable, give them parks, fields, things like that. I mean, obviously, if there's no demand for it, nothing you can do about it, but if you have demand for it and you're not moving in, just make the area more desirable. And yeah, I'm running into traffic problems. A lot of people leaving my city via roads. I don't think I have a single subway connection to my neighboring towns. So I really need to get on that. I'm thinking about having a railway to my neighboring towns and try to funnel most people through there and away from the cars and underground rail to overburden my little layout I have. But you can see they're all growing in nicely. I don't have demand for everything to fill out. I'll be doing that after I'm done with this episode. But you can see they're moving in. That they are. My demand's all gone, so I have to go to my next city. Got a nice little range of buildings popping up here. I don't seem to have anyone leaving, which you kind of have to pause once you leave all your demand, otherwise you will get some abandoned buildings after a while. But everything seems to be on track. My skyscrapers are still standing nice and skyscrapey. None of those went abandoned, so that's good too. And I will get more of them eventually. But for now I want to build out first, before I build up, like I mentioned. Always a safe way to do it, safe way to play. And I advise you do that in your own games, unless you're really, really good.